So the reason why we're even bringing this up is just because more and more people have been debating this so-called critical race theory, and there's like 9 states now that have outlawed the use of this critical race theory to be taught in schools, and there's several more states that are trying to outlaw this. So I've been hearing people discuss it, and I wanted to dig into what it was, other than just hearing opinions and headlines. So they're pretty much teaching that race is not natural, but it's culturally invented. And I got this information from Britannica. They're saying it's a category used to oppress people of color, which uses law and legal institutions that are inherently racist. They function to create and maintain social, economic, and political inequalities. This type of thought started like in the 1970s. Wait. After like the civil rights and things like that.
You found that on Britannica?
This is a theory that they're trying to put forth into curriculums today, and people are pushing back because they're saying it's racist to teach these type of things.
Yeah, that.
Because pretty much they're talking about white supremacy, they're talking about white privilege, racial guilt.
Yeah, they talk about the KKK, all that stuff in like history class. I remember in history class learning about all that shit.
Good point. So, here you go, Johnny.
Thank you, sir.
So yeah, they saying white supremacy exists through a societal structure of racism through law, and
are those the proponents of critical race theory, or are those the opponents of critical race theory?
This is the proponents. These are actual thoughts. This is the critical race theory that I'm putting forth right now, or at least what my small, synopsis of it.
I understand.
New developments in critical race theory this is the offspring of post-civil rights and institutional activism. This is from Kimberly Crenshaw. Yes, that was one name that I saw often. The Alchemy of Race and Rights. I think that's the book that was written. I thought you would like that. The Alchemy of Race and Rights. Oh, excuse me. The author of that one was Patricia Williams. And let me see. Faces at the Bottom of the Well. That was Derek Bell. So these are some of the scholars who started implementing the thought of the critical race theory into their works. And this is how it became a thing throughout the 70s and the 80s. And then, that was pretty much it. Because I already said some states have moved to ban it. And so it's now just becoming a thing. It's not like new, but it's just becoming a thing now because they're trying to really push it to where they're going to teach it in schools, you know what I'm saying? And people are like, nah, fuck that. Just like the race sensitivity trainings and shit like that we've talked about, so.
Well,
how do y'all feel? I don't.
Man, it's so hard, bro. Like in a perfect world, bro. What happened, bro?
No, there's something in my beer. I was just trying to see if it's ash or a fly.
Drink it.
I could do ash. I don't want to do a fly.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Flies are fucking cool, man.
There's protein, iron protein.
So good for you.
You just grew hair on your chest.
Thanks, bro.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, I'd say that nobody would even mention that stupid word. Right? Unless you were doing like scientific classification, the word race. But that's not gonna happen. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And you get where they're coming from, bro?
Right.
That's the thing. I guess my concern, bro, is that a group like BLM comes along and uses that, which I think that I get the critical race theory and I think it makes sense on a lot of levels. But they come along and we know that they're not really what they say they are. They don't give a fuck about black people.
Right.
About the black community.
Right. Well, the lady stepped down.
Right.
Yeah.
The one of them.
Right.
Yeah. So their whole thing is about they're communists, right? We did the whole. If you guys missed the episode,
Marxist. Yep.
Yeah,
Admitted.
Marxist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and it runs deep to the Chinese Communist Party. We
Deep.
linked it all together. You can link it yourself on Google.
Link it yourself.
So, that's my concern, is that they would come in and use that as a way to get their communist agenda or whatever agenda comes along.
Right.
You know? But I do agree with what that is said for the most part. Like, I do see that a lot of that bullshit. But then I want to flip on the white supremacist shit too, because I also want to bring to the table who benefits the most from that category, white supremacists. And from what I can see, it's the Ashkenaz Jews. Right? And because they can say when it's time to benefit from being white, right? Because Ashkenaz means, in Hebrew, it means German. So these Germans, these white people, can say when it's time to be white and drive by a police officer or get a loan from a bank. As a matter of fact, Jews, it's against their religious doctrine to charge each other interest.
Right.
So that's even like more pull when they're going to the bank. Not only are they going to get approved, they're going to get approved with no interest, more than likely, because I'm sure the real owner of that bank is probably a Jew himself or herself. So that's the problem I have with that too, is like, fine, I see it being implemented, but for whose benefit at the end, when we can see clearly that we have Jews running every facet of our society, and that's not a shot, that's just a fact. I mean, if you look at who owns Google, one of the most powerful companies, Jews.
Yeah.
Right? You look at people in the most powerful positions of the most powerful corporations on this planet,
Right.
and a lot of them are Jews.
And of course the question is, why now? You know, why now too? Like, why is this even becoming pushed into the mainstream now when it's been around since the 70s?
Right, exactly. That's a great question, because why now with everything that's going on, like the BLM agenda?
And the Juneteenth holiday and just all these concessions, you know, a lot of them token concessions, you know. Yeah.
And people might say, hey, you guys are sounding a little paranoid, but it's like, how are you supposed to act when every time you've trusted an entity, you've been lied to?
Correct.
Period.
And all these things that we've been asking for or been wanting to have attention be brought to are now all of a sudden having attention being brought to them. And now people are getting these things, you know what I mean? And you don't wonder why, what changed, you know? And some people may say you should just be happy, you know what I mean? But I would say
why not?
they're substanceless too. Because real change doesn't come from a holiday, you know. Real change isn't going to come necessarily from someone admitting that they're wrong.
Right.
That's a step.
Policies have to change, bro.
Exactly. Like I'll take a step. Like, that's cool, because we do need to rewrite some of the history books. Do I believe in necessarily this theory? Right. You know, I do believe in tenements of it, and I do think that there's facts in it. And I'm with you though. I'm well beyond the whole race thing, you know what I mean? And trying to make somebody feel guilty or make them foot the blame. But the story does need to be told correctly. That's all. And with more balance, you know? And yeah, other than that, like when I look at the critical race theory, I'm like, well, yeah, duh. But to me, I'm not waiting for a school or any institution to teach my children the history or what's real or what's true, you know, what's facts. So critical race theory or not, I'm not too concerned about that. But since we're having a discussion and we're talking about curriculum, should it be instituted in the curriculum? I would say to an extent, you know, if some of that is true, truth needs to be in the curriculum, and we need to get rid of some of the bullshit.
Kush and Kentrons, the world's most dangerous podcast.